So I got to Wicklow Wolf in May 2014. That was probably almost a year in process before that when I first met Quincy via his brother in Colorado. So I was living in Colorado, friends with Paul through the homebrew club, and just through chit chat found out that Quincy was opening a brewery here. And yeah, just conversations, one led to the next, and then I ended up moving, work visa, the whole process in May 2014. So that was quite a big transition, obviously, for myself, and a big adventure for myself and Quincy and Simon. And so Wicklow Wolf had the premise in Bray, our original first location, but we didn't have the equipment yet. That was delivered probably about 2 or 3 months after I arrived. So we still had a bunch of construction to do, get the building prepped, and actually get the equipment in, get it commissioned and set up. So the original beer and beers, Quincy and I had been chatting about it for months and months, well before I even moved over. And we knew we wanted to start with 4, and we had the American Amber, the IPA, the Kentucky Common, and the Black Pearl Porter. So we kind of were trying to hit just a range of like colors and hop characters, roastiness, stuff like that. So that was kind of the initial lineup, and we did the American Amber, and it just kind of seemed like an interesting kind of setting off point, I guess, to put it. So we made it slightly hoppy, slightly malty. It's got that caramel background, a little bit of a roast kind of dry characteristic from a little bit of chocolate malts and roasted malts that we had experimented with to give it that color, as you can kind of sort of see there. So it was just a bit of beer of interest without necessarily being too typical pale ale or lager, which was, especially then, 7 years ago, the most common styles. Yeah, no, for sure. It's just kind of a funny throwback in a sense. Because we retired the beer mid-2017, I forget exactly when. And the category of beer kind of always stayed because we shifted it into Sriracha Irish Red, and then that became Wildfire. And we always kind of liked that category of that slightly hoppy, malty red ale. So it was never a proper amber, proper red, or Irish Red by any means. But it was definitely something of interest and kind of had layers of character. So it was nice to always have it there, and then having the throwback American Amber, new name. But yes, it was for sure inspired, and pretty much the recipe, the ingredients, the barley was all the same, the grain components, the hops are the same. Obviously the equipment here is slightly different than anybody who has been into Bray, so that does have an impact on the end result. So specifically, to be honest, I'm not sure. I was chatting with a few friends over the weekends at a barbecue, and they asked the same question. They're like, what's the one thing? And it's like, to be honest, maybe it'll come to me later down the road, but to be honest, I couldn't give you one thing, but I will miss it for sure. Obviously, I'll come back to visit and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of, I've moved several times in previous life, and I am sadder about leaving Ireland than I was in previous places. So be it, obviously not the weather, but the people, the culture, the kind of the camaraderie, the just general atmosphere and mood, and yeah.
Not very. Delighted for him. It's something he's been looking forward for quite some time. So congratulations again, Pete and Clara. But it's going to be a huge loss for myself and the whole team, because he's a sound guy. He's obviously very passionate about beer, but most of all extremely dedicated. I remember in the early days he wouldn't do nothing on the weekend. He would just go to the brewery and look after the brews, the tank farm, everything. So yeah, that's his baby. 7 years. He went from a small thing at the back of a shop into where we are now. So, well done, mate.
Yeah, well, he's employee number one, and the company's come a long way from when they started, when he arrived, and they didn't even have a brew house, to where it is today, and this great brewery. And he's put in a hell of a lot of hours, probably more hours than anyone else in the whole company, and put a lot of work into the beers and meeting the demand over all the years and keeping things ticking over. and being a one-man show for a long time, and then himself and Etienne, and then as the team built out, he's a great guy to depend on, and he'll always go the extra yard. He'll always work the extra hour, when it's needed. He won't see anyone stuck.
Pete's fingerprints are all over Wicklow Wolf. Always have been and always will. Pete set the template from the word go in terms of the beers and the types of beers we did brew and do brew, and and he set a very high standard from day one, and we've taken it from there, and Pete's taken it from there to where we are now. We'll miss Pete a lot going forward. He's gone away, but he'll be back to visit, I hope, over time, but we'll miss him. I don't know if there's any one thing, I mean, when Pete arrived, he'd nowhere to stay, and he lived with us for, I don't know, a couple of months in the house, and when he ended up getting his own place, my kids were crying, didn't want him to go. He was great with the kids, and that bit was just great. They're a lot older now. They won't be crying when he's going, but they'll be disappointed to see him go.
Yeah.
So there's that, and Pete's Pete. He loves his food. He loves his hiking. He loves his mountaineering and climbing and potholing and stuff. So
And beer.
And beer. It took him a while to integrate, but he made lots of friends here, and he's got a really good group. And he's moving to France now to start a new life with Clara, and I wish them all the best of luck.
Pete had an unusual set of skills in that he would worked on a hop farm, his brother's hop farm, and he was a brewer, so it was the perfect set of skills that Wicklow Wolf needed. I met him in the brewery on the way home from the airport. Quincy dropped in to let me meet Pete, and a really nice guy from the start. Of course, he was employee number one. Obviously, we had some great times together. Being the brewery being so close to the Harbour Bar, one of the best bars in the world. We used to go down and socialise down there quite a bit, so we had great fun with him after work. But in work, Pete was great. He was a great problem solver. Stubborn. He wanted to do things in his way. Wouldn't always see eye to eye with the way that maybe Quincy or myself might want things done. But he was brilliant. I mean, Pete is he's a great guy, and they broke the mold when they made Pete. He's a very different thinker. He's a good guy, and he'll be sorely missed. One day I brought one of my daughter's bikes into the yard in the brewery in Bray, and I managed to get Pete to get onto the bike, and it had big chopper handlebars on it, but it was only this high off the ground, and Pete's knees were nearly coming up and hitting the handlebars. So I managed to get a shot of Pete on that bicycle, and it looked quite comical. It's very good. Yeah, that's probably the lasting memory.